All right, I'm going to calling to order the June 4th, 2024 meeting of the Town of Ulysses Planning Board. So for the record, we'll have a roll call.
Clark Gregg.
Linda Little, Chair,
Carl Klinkowski, alternate.
Mo Klein.
and shall we vote since
Yes.
we're in the short today?
I will make a motion to make Carl a voting member tonight. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Carl, thank you.
No more hiding.
Right.
You're on the record. Okay, so the agenda tonight is we have one project, the Kennedy sketch plat review. But since the agenda was put out, there's three things that have, that I know of that have potential additions. First of all, Michael Boggs requested that we make some upgrades to our agenda, permanent upgrades to our agenda. We should talk
I
about
didn't
that.
see that. What is it?
He wants us to permanently discuss training and also, ongoing code issues and how they're fitting into our current code. What modifications do we need to take back? So have a permanent time to talk about codes,
Okay. Okay.
potential changes to the code. So we can have some discussion on that. Then we need to have the discussion about Nate's feedback on the legal aspects of the ag districting.
Mhm.
Assuming you all saw the emails on that. And then potentially Crystal Buck is going to come and talk about the ag easement presentation that you got emails about. And so she's got a presentation about that and about not just that, but also about farmland protection grant program. It should probably know about.
So is that the updated agenda?
Those are the three things we want to add. I'm proposing we add,
Okay.
and Crystal may or may not come with some ambiguity about whether she had time for you tonight.
Well, I'll
So,
make a motion for the updated agenda. Second.
in favor?
Right.
Aye. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to add? No. Okay. Then the minutes, any corrections to the last minutes? I think,
Not for me.
Not for me, no.
okay. Now Niels said something about adding at least a line at the end of the ag discussion that we had requested that he reach out to Nate to get information about whether the actions of the board were or not.
Mhm.
So to have that added to the minutes. Which
You
makes
mean
sense.
the
'cause
last
it-
minutes?
The last minutes, yeah,
Okay.
because we didn't say anything about it, and I, when I read through because of its note, I noticed that it wasn't there, so it makes sense.
So I'll make a motion to amend the minutes.
Second,
All in favor?
Yeah,
Aye. Did you get that, Molly? Okay.
So, I don't know if anybody has those minutes in front of them, but say at the bottom of that too,
Yeah, I think.
two.
just the board requested.
Oh, yes, I
Yeah.
see it, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Then. So the minutes. Okay, so we accepted the amendment, the changes and all good, okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Well, that didn't include it. Okay,
with the addition.
With the
With the
addition, yes, with the
addition.
addition, yeah.
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thanks, Molly. Next is privilege of the floor. And I'm assuming you're both for the project since you each other for the project, so unless you had something else you wanted to talk to us, oh, wait, there is somebody else on the line, so I better do that. I forgot, we had someone in Zoom. So we'll have privilege of the floor at this time. If you would, it's time to talk. You can bring anything you would like to the board. to talk and for us to listen to you. You have 3 minutes to talk. I'd ask that you state your name and address just for the record. And we'll move to that. So right now, the only public that we have here is Brian. Are you interested in saying something? Taking
Yeah.
advantage of privilege? Okay,
Yes, good evening. My name is Brian Grout, Grout. My wife and I, Denny, live at 3041 Wilkins Road in Ulysses. This is the first hybrid, whether it's Zoom or in-person planning board meeting that I've attended. So I appreciate the opportunity to view it. Perhaps I'm behind things a little bit, but I was wondering if you could give me a 30-second update on the status of the dollar store application to be built, proposed to be built on Route 96. Thank you.
okay, so where we are on that is the public hearing is still open.
Okay.
And we are waiting for the dollar store to come back to the board with some modifications to their plat. And it has not been approved, so it's still being negotiated how they will do it, or if they will do it, whatever is going to happen there. Is that what you were looking for, Brian?
Yes, thank you. And the public is still in purview to submit comments to the planning
Yes.
board with regards to
Yes.
this application.
Yes, please do. If you
Okay.
have- And if you write it and put it in writing, that helps a lot, so. Or you could speak now if you'd like to.
I did submit a written comment several months ago. I'm sure it's on file with your board. And I would look forward to updating that submission and resending it in print to the board for their consideration.
Great, that would be, it's been, the public comments have been really helpful to us and have caused us to ask for different things from Dollar General when we're dealing with them, so we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, and you're Chris, right? So thanks. We're just about, if you have the time, we have a project that we need to review and then we'll give you time.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, so I'll move to close.
Yeah, motion to close.
Secondly.
All in favor? Aye, okay. The privilege of the floor is closed. So now we'll move on to your project. The applicant is Jack Litzenberger on behalf of the owner, Sean and Janine Kennedy. They propose to construct a new dwelling unit approximately 2,000 to 2,500 square foot and a new detached garage approximately 1,000 square foot, with associated grading and approximately 345 cubic yards, removal of some existing vegetation and extension of the gravel drive to connect to lake access. An existing carport and wood shed would be demolished and the existing dwelling unit approximately 1,126 square foot would be converted to an accessory dwelling unit. Per code, single family residences and their accessory buildings, along with an accessory dwelling unit, are permitted in the lakeshore zone, but requires site plan review within a slope overlay area. Pursuant to the provisions listed in our code. Excavation, grading, or filling of more than 10 cubic yards is also subject to site plan approval when within a slope overlay in the lakeshore zone. The setback from the lake is 75 feet as currently proposed. The minimum setback proposed for the dwelling unit is 50 feet. Wait a minute, I think I'm misreading this. Wait, our setbacks, okay, the code setback is 50 feet. And this proposal is 75 feet. Is that right? Then we have to-
Would you like me to?
Yeah, you want to clarify? Yeah, sure. That would be great. That was the next step.
I can't speak with expertise on the codes there.
Right,
My understanding is 75 feet from the creek,
From the
That's
top
a
of the
separate
bank,
issue.
from the top of the creek and 50.
top of the bank.
Top of the bank next to the creek and 50 from the lake. That was my understanding.
It's 100 feet from the lake.
75.
No,
So,
it's not
75.
75. Oh, okay, 75.
Okay, all right, well,
Oh,
those are the two numbers I was aware of, that's all.
oh, okay, right. So the lake, so the setback from the lake is, according to code, is 75. Right, okay, I'm sorry, I got confused when I was reading. Okay, if you want to go ahead and talk about your project with us, that would be great.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, how much detail or backstory you might be interested in, but we bought the property in February, well, we went under contract, I guess, in February of last year, I believe it was February.
Oh, okay.
And purchased it, it was, we had to act quickly, it was an estate sale, we had a few days, and we just decided to go for it, and, you know, since then, fallen in love with the property. It's a really nice property. The existing dwelling there, as best as we can tell, was built in the late 1800s by a Cornell professor, and it is a small.
Yeah.
Dwelling. And we looked into whether that could be expanded or converted, but then ultimately we decided, I think that was too complicated, being so close to the creek and all that stuff. And we also kind of wanted to keep the history of the cottage.
Hmm.
Because it is sort of historical in a sense. So given that we have a fair amount of land in this property, we thought we could build something next to it without the intention of it like subdividing or anything. That it would be one, you know, like an accessory dwelling. And that would allow us to perhaps build something smaller than we might have otherwise, because then we would have, if we had family or whatever visiting, we could take advantage of the accessory building as well. And the garage, we would like to, you know, be able to store kayaks and some things like that. So we understand there are all these rules. I don't, you know, have the engineering expertise, but I would hope that we would do all the proper drainage, both for the benefit of the lake and for the benefit of our property and
Mhm.
all that stuff. So that's, you know, we want to obviously comply with all that's required.
Okay,
So,
okay.
I don't know if that.
Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, yeah, I'll have
Yeah,
questions,
good.
yeah, but after
Okay,
it's done.
we'll have lots of questions.
Oh, yeah.
And our purpose today is to give you advice on what we need for the actual
Okay.
sketch plat review. and
Okay, so you might be getting into
approval.
technicalities that Jack.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
more proficient with.
And I'm assuming
Yeah,
you
yeah.
probably know the code more. That,
A little bit, yeah,
yeah, okay,
but not as good as you guys.
okay, so then, I'm just looking. A second. Up here. Sketch plat. Um. So then, all right, based on my question, the code is 75, so they'll have to go to the BZA, right?
Unless,
Or the-
yeah, unless you can set back the structure a minimum of 75 feet from the lake, then you just have to get planning board approval. But if you want to do that 50 feet, it has to get a variance.
Okay, again, so I thought it was 50, so if it's 75, I think that's something we could do. I would wanna, you know. Assess that again, I guess, because in my head, I thought it was 50.
Yeah,
I
sure,
don't think that would be a problem, because
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of nice
yeah,
potential, sightings for.
is there, okay, that's good, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, if that's the code, I don't think we would wanna seek I don't know what word. to
unless
use,
you
but
had some
variance or
real
whatever.
barrier.
Yeah, if something,
Yeah.
if something that I'm unaware of,
That's
I'm
what-
not sure, but I don't believe that there's a reason.
Nothing in the way.
Yeah.
A tree or two. There's more than ample space to fit it at 75 feet, still design around there.
Is there, okay,
Is,
yeah,
when you're talking, there was a new well, is that been built recently or is that proposed?
No, that's,
Okay, so if you move that house back to 75 feet, you're gonna be on top of that well.
that was
You
just,
look at this
that was a projected location to keep the separation from septic system.
Right.
So we'll re-sketch that and lay that out better. Like, the first attempt at this sketch was just a general discussion of ideas and where I
Okay.
would
Gotcha.
attempt
All right.
to place these items.
Is there any requirement for setback from the lake for septic fields?
That's up to the state.
that, yeah.
Where he put it on the plan, I don't think the state would approve that. They're gonna have to probably put it up on the hill.
Okay,
Have a pump up system because that was way too close.
right.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Well, first on the application, I think there's a few items that you checked no that are actually yes. One is the site proposed action located in or does it adjoin a state listed critical environmental area? I don't know if the lake is considered would that be considered nope, okay, that's fine then. Let's see, oh yeah, number 13 was, does any portion of the site Joyceton land, anything like that, wetlands or other water bodies, yes, actually it does, it's the lake, so that has to be checked, yes. That's 13. A and B, I believe. Let's see what else, there was something. 17 also, it's about stormwater discharge. There will be stormwater off the building, so that has to be checked, yes.
Okay.
Well, not all of it, because there's A and B. One says, will it go to an adjacent property, and the other one.
And,
Some sort of a runoff, which we'll
Right.
discuss later on.
Yeah.
and because this is sort of a learning curve for you guys here, stormwater is gonna be a big matter of discussion
Yeah.
on this. Okay, so,
And on your application, you have 1 acre, which you now have to apply to the state for a permit.
Right, and I would probably want to amend that because after like calculating exactly, like right now, we're assuming a home. that we're
Yes,
thinking of.
you wrote down 1 acre, it's no amending now.
So,
You're gonna have to
one
do it.
shot deal, make this application and you can't make an amendment with recalculation or some proof.
Well,
I would think they could.
Because we don't.
what?
They can.
They can?
But they're gonna have to amend paragraph 13 and 17. They're gonna have to revise the document anyway.
Then you also mentioned about cutting trees. That's sort of a no-no from the town of Ulysses and from the state of New York. The only allowable tree cutting would be where the footprint of the house is. You can cut a view, but if you do that, now you definitely will have to apply to the state because of landscape vegetation. And the state probably won't permit it. They really don't like people cutting trees on the lakeshore property. So the footprint of the house, yes. Also, you said you're gonna cut on the road.
So the road coming down or driveway coming down
Yeah.
is somewhat close proximity when you try to bring trucks or equipment and make deliveries. So I suspect there's some side trees that are going to become an issue, just trying to get equipment down there and build something.
Well, the issue also is the lakefront. They really do not like people to cut the trees just because they either want a view or if they want to make a bigger driveway or whatever. So that could be an issue depending on how much you're going to cut, and that's actually by the state.
Yep. The intention
Also,
were trees that would be in the way of construction primarily, not to create a swath. or-
it doesn't make any difference. It's,
I'm not sure if it's relevant to this discussion, but so. There's a very large number of, I think they're hemlocks and ash that are dying and like in danger of falling on our existing house. We were gonna call tree people to prevent, cause they're like right over our house and they're dead. Is that something that we have to call the state for to do?
No,
Dead trees.
In our
actually, the
zoning,
state-
it says if it's a hazard to the property,
Property.
only if it's a
you
hazard
could
to the
cut it,
property.
right, and if the dead ash trees hanging over the existing cottage could create kindling wood out of it.
Yeah, no, that is permitted, like you can't just start cutting
Yeah.
away everything that's around the cottage. If it's a dead tree, that's one thing, but if they're live trees,
Yeah.
unless it's hanging over the cottage. Also on the map that you gave us, we're gonna have to have a survey map with elevation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that map should include, where the streams are, the high bank, everything.
Yeah, in fact, one of our members that wasn't here had a chance to look at it, and she suggested that there is a stream north of your boundary line that's the adjacent property but has a buffer. And we need the buffer to be included. You need to include the victory.
Well, but the one on the south side is the real drive.
But that's
But I thought
that's
she
a
was-
deep gully.
Yeah,
That's,
But there was an intermittent, she
But-
said,
right.
on the north side.
Niels, what you said indicated that the one on the south side was a perennial stream. But when you go to the USGS 7.5 minute data, it's an intermittent stream. We need to get rid of all that reference to a perennial stream. There is no perennial stream anywhere near that property.
So that, we've had this discussion before, that needs to be a code amendment brought by the town board, because we have two conflicting information. We have USGS and we have the county maps. The only stream that I'm aware of though is on the south side. I think
Right.
Rebecca's looking at the parcel to the north, so that,
And then that's
Doesn't-
beyond the setback limit to the north,
Right.
so it's not a problem.
that one isn't applicable.
Oh, it wasn't
One thing-
applicable? Oh,
No,
okay.
it's
Yeah.
beyond, it's the one on the south side that is the setback driving it.
Okay,
One thing to look at for reference is a local law number 032007, which is the stormwater management and erosion and sediment control from the town of Ulysses. And also the blue book, which I mentioned, is the state of New York. Because that's gonna be the toughest, is stormwater runoff.
so anything that you can do to slow down the water from, because you're adding 3,000 square feet, over 3,000 square feet, impermeable roofs of the houses. What can we do to keep, and especially so close to the lake?
Yeah, that's actually an issue. When you talk about stormwater, I was thinking, coming down the slope,
Oh, you
and
got that.
there's that too, but
Yeah.
I never thought of that, so that makes
Yeah.
sense.
They're gonna look at your roof square footage,
footage.
probably the deck square
Decks.
footage and the roof and pave not, are you gonna do any paving?
So this is a shared driveway with the other neighbors, and we're new to it. Apparently they've been in discussion for years about the possibility of paving it.
Okay,
I don't know what may happen.
that's.
I know that they almost annually, but maybe not quite every year, have new gravel and grading done because it just erodes all constantly.
Yeah,
Right, but they'll look at the impact of the garage as well, the roof area there. That's gonna be significant, amount of, stormwater runoff,
Yeah.
so just be aware.
You know, paving usually brings even more runoff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and with that long driveway and the steep grade that you have. It will come right down into the house.
Right.
So unfortunately, that's difficult on the lake shore. Any type of, and we've had some heavy rains. You probably haven't been here during a heavy rain, but chances are that driveway becomes
Well,
a small river.
We were away last year for
Yeah.
what apparently was heavy rain. We came back, there were giant ruts
Ruts, yeah.
all in the driveway. And like,
And
wow.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
right? And that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yes, obviously.
Yes. On the plan, when you have the new plan with elevations, if you approximately can put the house in, so we know where it is, because there is a possibility after cutting the trees, they might require you to put in some vegetation to hold the ground. Because once the trees are gone, there was very little vegetation on that ground. You might have to plant like grasses or bushes or something of that nature, because otherwise the bank is gonna go. And that has happened to some people where they, they cut and then they didn't bother putting anything in, and when it rains, it disappears. So just be aware of that.
If you move it back 25 feet from the current proposed location, are you getting, from a topographic standpoint, are you getting closer to a steeper slope behind the house or uphill from the house?
No, it's pretty gradual until it like just drops
Drops.
off to the lake.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a pretty
Oh,
steady
okay.
slope, maybe at, I don't know, maybe less than 6% overall. Right. So
Okay. so
as we
this-
go up, we probably introduce an opportunity for more walkout basement chances.
Right. Okay.
You know,
I was
and
just
then,
worried
and then
about-
with that cut and fill, we'd be able to cut a little deeper out front and fill around back to support the water.
Okay.
You know, just from grading.
Yeah, the water runoff, especially from the house. There's a possibility you might have to put like a retention pond in the back, so the water will fill in there and then slowly seep. No water should really be running into the lake off the buildings of any sort.
Yep.
No time leaders.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of different ways. There's water gardens, there's all kinds of ways to do it. And you might want to consult a landscape architect, because that's what they do. I don't know if you know one or not, but there's plenty of them around.
I've had Cuba Landscape, they're working on a project that I'm doing right now in Cuba Heights area. Dave Fernandez has done the design through. Let's say Tatum Engineering, but it may not be correct on that,
Hmm.
but he's helpful, and Steve Maybe, will do the septic design on this house as he's done for other homes that I built in the Oak Harbor
Hmm.
area. He'll be helpful in that.
Yeah.
Water runoff. and
Well, that's the state will take care of that. We don't do septic systems basically, so you have to deal with the state.
He'll assist in house location too, to topography.
You may have to cut down some trees for something too.
Oh, yeah, well, that's another
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Every time you start cutting more trees, you have more runoff.
Yeah.
And especially there, because there was no undergrowth really.
Right.
It was all, heavy trees. I mean, some of the trees there were over 2 feet.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple of oaks there that were,
Yeah.
Mo and I went down
Did you?
yesterday.
yeah, I have pictures
Oh,
also.
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance.
I don't know if I can get it to blow up or not.
Do you have deer?
I've seen you there.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be
Sure
sure.
they
Clean
are.
that clean. That's a clean woods.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so given all this, one of the things would be probably to plan for the trees to provide.
Oh, that's me,
Okay.
very underneath.
With your plat, to have a plan for the trees, plan for water runoff intention.
Also the driveway.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. So do you need to have why is the driveway, why are you extending the driveway to go to?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not,
was it-
I'm not sure, I'm not sure.
Where I
Did
read
the
that?
little path get on the thing that goes down to our grassy area?
Yeah, that was existing.
There is a existing I don't know if you have the.
Yeah, I
survey.
saw it.
There's an existing path that goes down there. We thought it might be nice to do something to make it easier to get like,
No,
like a, long tractor or something down, but.
yeah, you
but it's-
can't put a driveway down to the lake.
Okay,
Because,
well, yeah,
well, that's part of, I have to look it up, but I think it's even in our ordinances on the
Yeah.
lake shore. No driveways can go down to the lake. That was a path and you can leave it the way it is, but improving it, I don't believe you can do so.
okay,
Yeah, making it impervious so that there's more runoff. That's what
Right,
they're trying
but
to
yeah.
do away-
Yeah.
okay,
It just
so-
becomes more runoff into the
Gotcha.
lake.
Yeah,
Yeah, right now it's about a 3 to 4 foot wide gravel or the grass path that
Yeah.
goes down there, and it's actually, it goes over and then makes a turn and comes back to work its way down the slope.
Yeah,
You could almost push a wheelchair up into the slope.
Yeah, which is-
It's a
in
nice-
fact, that's,
yeah.
my nephew is in a wheelchair and then we use that for that purpose.
yeah, and that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good, okay,
Because otherwise there'd be no way to get him down to the.
Yeah.
frontage.
So-
and those are good. Hey,
so I think we covered what we need. Right? We need,
Well-
we need a new plot plan with elevation.
What
Yeah.
spacing do we want on the elevation? 2 foot, 1 foot? Do you want the mean high water line and also the 100-year flood line?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because it is a floodplain, yes, so it is, yep.
Contour wise, I don't know, 2 foot. I mean, I drove through there real quickly,
Yeah.
but
I don't think
Trying
we
to
need
think of
2
what-
foot, but we do need elevation
yeah,
right,
of some sort, maybe every 5 feet or 10 feet would be fine.
I think so.
yeah, 1 foot would just be a black marker.
Yeah, that's right, and we wouldn't even be able to read it.
Right.
Well, it's actually up to the
Yeah.
surveyor. I mean, he might want to do 10 feet, he might do 20 feet, right, you know. it all
Right.
depends.
Yeah,
And
I would
also-
think 10 feet would be the biggest increment we would want, so that we
Yeah.
can get an
So we can see.
idea how the slope is climbing.
Right. And also, make sure where that gully is on the south side, where the top banking is. He can just put it in, say this is the top of the banking, because you have to be 75 feet from that banking over. Which it seems like you do have enough room to do so.
Yeah, luckily, their overall lake lot is about 300 feet high.
Yeah, so they should be able to maneuver
It's a
something.
good size lake.
Okay, what else do we need?
Just.
Yeah,
Well, new location for the well, if it needs to be moved. And then.
The
so-
general
septic.
location.
Well, the septic, they have to go through the engineer and the state would have to approve it, but if you do get that done, it would be nice to see where you're gonna be putting it.
Yeah.
That's all. I think we have covered everything that we need from both of you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Well, we'll discuss it for a few more minutes, just to make sure we get everything, because I don't want you to come back and then we're gonna say, oh, we forgot something.
Okay.
We have to go through the whole thing again. So we asked for that. Okay.
and I think we've got, I
Excuse
think
me?
we've got most, and just a detailed plan of the layout of the house. So when you come back to actually have the house really close to what you're gonna be
Yeah,
putting in,
Right, I think to some degree we didn't want to
Understand.
put too much energy in before we knew.
Right.
Whether it's.
that's what.
oh, right, no,
Yeah,
yeah, of course, that's why you're here, so
Right.
we can tell you what we actually need.
Yeah.
But you can say, after you have a new plot plan done, you can say, okay, maybe the house can fit here. And that way, at least we'll know, and maybe by that time you might have the septic system and all of that, because, that's all gonna sort of combine together where all of this is gonna fit.
Yeah.
On your property.
Right.
And then also, if you are gonna cut trees on the road, just let us know what you're gonna cut. You might wanna just write it in somewhere.
Right.
Of course, if you're gonna be cutting a lot on the road, there's gonna be a problem with that because of the runoff.
Right.
I mean, a few trees here and there,
Well, we have an existing problem is that it's a narrow gravel and there are trees that tend to grow into it and
Yeah,
I can't imagine that to get state permission otherwise we couldn't get a car down, like,
Yeah.
there has to be maintenance every year just to
Isn't
keep the path.
Isn't it certain size trees too?
Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
bigger than 4 inches,
let's
that's
ask
just
Neil
height.
here, what do you think?
It's in our zoning ordinance, there's,
I
No,
believe there
yeah.
is a, yeah,
What was that called?
so you
yeah,
can keep.
I think
brushing.
it's 4 inches, that chest height is the
Well-
definition, if it's bigger than that, then it qualifies as a tree.
Yeah.
Before, below that, it
Yeah.
doesn't, but the town of Ulysses, if you go to town of Ulysses, New York, we have a website, and on there, 212 is our zoning ordinance. And if you go in there, there's an index near the front that will get you to the articles and paragraphs you need. Okay, like for the stream setbacks, that's, you need to go to Article 10, which is like a big chapter. And in there, paragraph 124 deals with all the setbacks. There's a table with all the stuff. If you go to Article 4, which is the definitions, and in there, paragraph 22 gives you the definition of streams. And also part of that gives you the break point that the more than 10 foot deep where you have to go to the top of the bank and that kind of stuff.
Also, Article 8, which is the Lake Shore. Ordinances, and it's, I'm just reading the first one.
I think reading through that would be useful for
Yeah.
better long-term knowing what you're dealing with. And that's what we're going by is that it's been approved by the town board and that's really our guiding document.
Yeah, I believe I have at least perused these.
Yeah,
Lots of fun.
it's just some light reading and a
Yeah.
good cure for insomnia.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question for Niels. Accessory buildings, is there a max size for accessory buildings? Yeah.
As far as
Uh,
overall
because I
or
was-
per
I tried to
each?
Find it in the law, but I didn't have enough time to dive, just for. One, like I read in the conservation zone, it was like 100,000 plenty.
What?
1,000. 1,200 square feet.
That number rings a bell to me too when we were looking into it.
Yeah, because. I guess we have to deal, because the cottage you have is 1,800, right?
No.
Oh, no?
It's under 12, yeah, it's like 11.
Oh, okay. Then I'm worried about it, I don't know. I didn't find it for the lake shore, so I wasn't sure that I
If
was.
it was 800, we probably.
Probably use it.
Just do that, yeah.
I don't know what I was looking at. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's good, yeah.
Are you asking about accessory buildings or accessory dwelling units? Because they're distinct.
Right.
So are you asking about
I
like,
don't know what this would qualify as, well.
are you asking
is
for
it-
sheds or for,
For the lake shore, I don't think you're allowed accessory dwelling.
You are.
You are? Oh, okay.
so it, and that's the same standard across the town as far as the size limit there.
Oh, it is, okay.
Remember we had that one
We
at
did.
like 13 or 1125 to get it, they were putting in an accessory dwelling unit. Where
Yeah.
her father was gonna.
Oh,
live
to
part of
live
it.
in, yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. Yeah, that probably is it.
So the most important things is gonna be the stormwater runoff.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
After that,
Cause it looks like.
it's not that hard, but
Smooth
that's
sailing.
gonna be the hard one.
Yeah, well, I think with proper engineering and.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Having something legitimate to discuss and some real good topography. Our goal here was to say, we'd like to build a home and. Yeah, in this space and just kind of get the feel for everybody so that we could start to just
Yeah,
work it in the proper manner.
yeah,
and the stormwater stuff is sort of a two-stage deal because we're gonna be interested in how you control it while you're doing construction.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna be at that for 6 to 8 months, I would guess, or something in that vicinity. And then the long term, after you're done and go away and it's reseeded, you know, the runoff from the two roofs.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Do you have any other?
So you got enough information?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I do. Well, I wanna go to the professionals that I've worked with and get some better planning done, you know, just, we know it's a process, but just wanted to get to this point and can we do it?
I think so. I don't-
Doesn't seem to be stopping anybody else.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
like with this amount of space, if it was a much smaller property, I would suspect this would be an issue.
What was your front? I didn't even
Oh,
look at the
It's
front.
about
I just want to-
Yeah, it's a big lot or a lake shore lot.
Yeah, yeah, lucky guy.
I'm just looking at the tree removal that is in R, and it says there are a few requirements. With the approval of the zoning officer and the possession of a valid building permit, those trees that are in the footprint of a construction site, septic system, parking area, and the driveway access can be done, but that would be from the zoning officer. He would come down and, you know, you just walk him through and this is what we're doing.
Can you give me that article so you know what?
Oh, yeah, that is 21248. And it's the whole thing. It's all about vegetation, but you'll see it in there.
Okay,
And it says clear cutting of forest stands for any other than necessary minimal clearing for that requirements of a building project is prohibited. So, yeah, read that whole section and it's sort of self-explanatory.
It's not.
it's not money at all.
At
I
least
guess,
give you a running start on it.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
so probably we'll need to have a public hearing, but we do that after we have
We get
more
the information.
definitive, yeah, more definitive plan. So we'll have to have time just to give you an idea
Right,
of the process and the time it will take. So once we have that and we feel there's enough to, for the public hearing, then we'll schedule that. for you.
Yeah,
We can do
once
that.
we get rid of it,
Yeah, we
all
need
the information.
2 or 3 weeks to get that, give people notice.
right.
You know, the hardest place to build in Ulysses is on the lake shore.
Yeah.
Because of the runoff. No, that's the biggest thing. It's
Sure.
the runoff.
Okay, so I guess Niels, you'll supply me with a have this by date email, right? And then I can work backwards from that to make sure I can hit. the
You have a
next-
deadline?
No, we're just, you know, we're trying to
Yeah,
do this as soon as we can do it, right? We're not rushing through it, but that's, you know, I don't wanna like miss a month that we didn't get something done by the engineers and then we go another month.
Do you plan on starting this year or?
If things score, yeah. we'll look
Oh,
at
okay, no,
the fall start.
Okay.
If we can get to that.
Well, we meet again in 2 weeks if you can get all, it has to be a week before. You have to-
Right.
Before the meeting that we get the information.
I'd suspect with engineering, topography and survey schedule and those types of things, probably within a month, I would have everything at least
Or
ready
okay.
for submission.
our normal meetings are the first and third Tuesday of the month.
Okay,
So that kind of gives you can look at the calendar and figure
Right.
out where you can get to.
okay,
And and if you can send it a week before.
Yep.
So we can review it,
Yeah,
okay?
okay.
so it sounds like most of us have already gone to the site.
Just Mo and I went to.
Just you.
Yeah.
Bart
I
was
drove down
gonna
to
join us,
that,
but we
What
can't
happened,
have three of us there.
what happened is I was with Carl and I was gonna leave. So Bart can come in and Bart, I didn't know it was Bart. He drove down and drove away.
Yeah.
But I was gonna walk away, as long as there's not 2 people there at the same
Yeah,
time.
we have to, we
More than
can't
2.
just come in a group, we have to keep ourselves separate, so.
It's,
Have you gotten into?
Because we don't get
trouble
along
or
enough.
something?
no, it's a
Who's
state
the
law.
troublemaker?
It's a state law.
Technically, it's a meeting if we have enough for a quorum.
Right.
3 members is a quorum.
And that's a
what
state law.
drives that.
Okay.
So we can't have
I
3
thought you
people at the
guys got a
same
little
time.
sideways or something.
Well,
No.
we actually could have 3 people if we took notes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
not
can
good.
call, no, you can call the meeting, but you have to take notes of what was going on then.
Yeah, Molly wasn't there.
Yeah. no,
Much simpler,
Molly
just
wanna go.
avoid any appearances of impropriety.
Right.
Limited to two.
Right. That's exactly.
So that means there's two of us that haven't seen it. Rebecca and I. Yeah, if you want
Sort of.
more details.
Yeah.
Would it be okay if somebody just drives down there to take a
Yes,
look?
absolutely.
Okay, so Bart, you can go anytime then, and then
Yeah.
anytime. I would, we walked down because when I saw the driveway, I said, I'm not going down this thing.
Thanks for the heads up.
We walked down, but walking up is difficult. It's.
I'll plan my
Yeah,
exercise.
driving.
Yeah.
There,
If you wanna knock a tree or two
if
down,
you see the,
way
if you
down.
see the driveway it splits at one point.
Yeah.
And then it comes back together, stay on the right side as you go down and go back up that way as
The
well.
left side,
I
is-
didn't-
I mean, the right side going up is
They have,
easier.
they have a one-way sign.
The right side going up, see, I think that's the road.
Like I
Really?
said,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
steeper slope at its start,
So
so.
it has,
Yeah,
more- it has more big. chunks
Well,
out of the
I didn't
driveway.
even want to attempt it because I know some of the roadways on the lake that are pretty bad, and I just didn't want to go down there and find myself not being able to get back up.
Oh, okay.
We made it.
Yeah, no, but yeah,
Good to know.
but you could drive down there. if you
Yeah,
want.
I'm sure. Okay,
Okay.
well, thank you.
We have
Yeah.
more.
Good luck.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. So I propose we let Crystal. If you would like to, have a few minutes.
Yes.
For it. Thanks. And I explained to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So I explained to everybody why you were here. so.
Great. Okay, yeah, thank you for having me again. I wanted to talk about the county's pre-application process for the New York State Farmland Protection Implementation Grant, which is for purchase of development rights, conservation easements on farmland. I'm gonna assume that you guys all kind of have some familiarity with how that program works, or do you want me to go through it in a little bit more detail?
More detail.
Okay,
More
more
detail
detail,
would be
great.
good.
So I have handouts here. This is just kind of for your information. You're welcome to share it with any property owners you know that might.
So is this what, is
I-
this the one for the class on the, for the?
There
section
is
on the-
a workshop on the 11th for farmland owners.
I signed up for.
Great. Okay, so the way that this program works, the state has a pot of money that they release as a grant every 2 years. It's a rolling grant, so you kind of have to be ready for it when that is released, and the next release date will be the spring of 2025. So we have a little less than a year to kind of do our pre-application process. It's done in partnership with land trusts. So the applicant is either a municipality, county, or a land trust. In Tompkins County, it used to be this program was done with the county primarily as the applicant. And sometimes the Finger Lakes Land Trust also does applications. The county does not and hasn't done this grant in a long time. And there hasn't really been a lot of activity in our region with this grant. So last grant cycle, there was $5 million allocated to our region, and 3.5 million of that was left on the table and redistributed to other areas in the state. So we've been working,
Excuse me,
yes.
he left his water bottle right there.
Oh,
Where is he? Which
They
way?
they probably left already, but
Here.
yeah, okay.
so we've been working, the Ag and Farm and Protection Board and Cooperative Extension, we've been trying to figure out how to make this program work better for landowners. And the key issue that has come up is that there hasn't been really an applicant that is willing to pursue the
do the
grant
work.
funding, to do the work. The Finger Lakes Land Trust, wonderful organization, obviously, but their focus is not on farmland. Sometimes there will be a project that they want to protect the land because there's other things going on, like it's adjacent to an existing land trust property preserve. it has water resources that they want to protect, those types of things, but they're not really interested in farmland protection per se on its own merit. And like I said, the county is no longer willing to do these applications. So we reached out to the New York Ag Land Trust, who has been doing great work in other parts, more central of New York areas. And they've expressed a willingness to come and work in Hopkins County. So this will be the first grant cycle that we will be partnering with them. We're really excited about that because I think it will really make it a much more viable opportunity for landowners. So the process starts at the county level. It needs to go through the Ag and Farmland Protection Board to rank any potential applicants. And then it comes also to the municipality for your endorsement. So as part of this application process, the applications will be due in August 1st. And then the Ag and Farmland Protection Board will review those. I will come back out to whichever municipality has farmland owners in it who are interested in September and seek your endorsement and feedback on those projects. So I'm here today to kind of let you know in advance, so it's not a surprise, but also if you have thoughts about property owners that you think would be interested in this program, so that you can do a little bit of outreach or let me know who I should be talking to. I also have some brochures. This is the New York Ag Land Trust that I was just mentioning.
So what kind of projects are they?
Yeah,
So you have.
great. Yeah, I
Okay.
will.
Okay.
I'll go through that. And I also have some on the Finger Lakes Land Trust. I think that's a more well-known entity, but if you're interested in those ones as well, I do have them. Okay, so what this program does, the state-funded program, it pays property owners to permanently protect their land, their farmland. So if you think about
As farmed,
farmland, so
right, so, yeah.
yeah, and so it needs to be at the time of application in active agriculture. There's no requirement that it stay in agriculture, but there is an in perpetuity restriction on any development.
What sizes are we talking?
Good question. So the grant has changed over time and we never really know what that next cycle will look like. But the last grant cycle, it could be as small in our region as 10 acres and up from there. So there's a number of categories. I think this past grant cycle, there were 11 categories. And so depending on the type of project, the type of farming that's happening, it would vary the size. So it could be like if it's a field crop, standard hay type of thing, then that would need to be at least 98 acres.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So if a farmer has 20 acres on one side of the street and then on the other side of the street, 20 acres, and then let's say down the street, 20 acres, he owns all of them.
Yeah.
Can he group them together?
You can group them together and actually you can group property owned by different individuals into one project.
Okay.
So usually that's done if, like, say a farmer owns some and they rent some. They might want to work with the renting landowner to protect all of it, but you can also have, two farms in this municipality that want to just say they were a project together and have those work cooperatively. Yeah, so I think in the past, there was a sense that this program was really to protect large farms with prime soils. And that's shifted a little bit over time. There's a lot more diversity in the types of farms that it can be. So it can be agroforestry, it can be fruit and veg, it can be field crop, it can be grazing land. And so there's a lot of different types of properties that can qualify for this grant. The things that the state looks for, they want to see that it is good, viable land, that it has the long-term potential to continue to be viable. So if it was a small property that didn't really seem like it was much of a viable piece of farmland, that would be less appealing or less favorable for the grant. They also want to see that there's been investment in the property, there's a good business plan, that there is some development pressure on that so that they are legitimately protecting it from development. But it really is a very wide range of properties that can qualify for it. I will say that the grant is not for everyone. It's really important for people who are interested in this to know that it's a very long-term project. So it takes 3 to 5 years from the time you start your pre-application to the time that you get money in your hands. So that's mostly on the state, that their process takes 2 to 3 years. And it's really like you find out fairly quickly in the grant application process whether you are awarded, but then there's quite a long time where they are working with you to determine what the conservation easement language says and getting your appraisal done and your survey done, and it just takes a long time. And so it really does require that landowners are thinking more long-term, that this is something they're maybe like they're transitioning their land to the next generation. This is a way that they can kind of tap out some of those resources while protecting it, and it's part of their long-term planning process for their property.
Could you give us an example? Let's say 20 acres, what would the process, how it would start and all the way through to the end? It doesn't have to be in detail, just.
Yeah. So we're in the pre-application process. We do the county's pre-application process that will complete by Thanksgiving. And that goes then to the land trust. The land trust has a board that reviews the ranked properties from the county and from other counties and selects the projects they're going to pursue. And then, yeah, go ahead.
So in this pre-in, do you have to have a span of projects like ready to be done? I mean, people already signed up for it in order to do.
The pre-application.
Yeah, so they have
when,
farmers already
well,
identified.
so the pre-application is for the landowners. The
Okay.
landowners apply to us to say they're interested in protecting their farmland.
Okay,
There's quite a bit of support available to them in terms of mapping, in terms of figuring out things like development pressure on their property. And I meet with people several times to kind of go through the pre-application and help them.
Okay.
Then it goes through the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. And at that point, I'm continuing to provide support to the landowner to like connect them with land trusts and figure out like how they're actually gonna apply for the project. But it's the landowner that does the pre-application.
okay.
How many properties, there's, let's say 50 applicants, how many of those do you think will be accepted?
Right, okay, so 50 would be way more than we would anticipate.
I know, I just threw out a number.
Right, okay, so, it's a little bit of a question mark. We've heard from the New York Ag Land Trust that they are probably interested this coming year in just doing 2 or 3 projects in Tompkins County.
So that's what's a
Right.
normal,
It would be really nice, though, at this point to kind of get people in the queue. So we know who's interested out there and we can kind of prioritize those and kind of get them working through the process. So it might be that somebody says, I'm interested in this, but it doesn't, their application doesn't go through for 4 more years. The grant itself is a rolling grant. So once the land trust applies for it, that grant is accepted if it meets the criteria that the state is looking for. So it's not directly competing with other applications. So once the grant is approved by the state, then like I was saying, the process involves an appraisal to determine the value of the development rights that the property owner is selling. It includes a survey. There's quite a bit of back and forth with the conservation easement and attorneys, making sure that that language, like any real estate transaction, that's like solid. And most of those fees are paid for by the grant, with the exception of the legal fees and the real estate transfer taxes. But things like the appraisal process and the survey are both paid for by the grant.
So at the end of the day, is the land sold to the state?
Right, so it's not sold, the property owner continues to own the land.
Right,
What they are selling is the development rights. The
Okay.
development rights are, can you subdivide it, can you build additional houses on it? Commercial development, anything like that.
Okay.
But you continue to own the land, retain all the other property rights associated with it. Usually there are, you're also permitted to do limited subdivision sometimes, like if you say, I'd like to be able to subdivide off this farmstead area, that's permitted. There's development associated with the farm itself that is permitted. You just can't subdivide it off and build housing.
So what then would, if someone that did this and then died and the property went into a state, needed to be sold?
It's in perpetuity. There's no out forever and ever. It is in perpetuity. It's a conservation easement, permanent, the deed.
Do you have any sense of the impact of land value?
Good question, yeah.
what is the percentage, if the land value is assessed, what's the percentage that the owner gets?
Yeah, okay, so, usually it's a roughly, very rough ballpark, about 60% of your current assessed value. Would be what you would receive that would be the value of the development rights. You actually don't receive 100% of that through the grant.
I did think so. but-
You receive 87.5%, so it can still be a very large chunk of change when you're all is said and done.
Who pays the
Yeah.
taxes?
Yeah, so you continue to pay taxes.
Mhm.
The property value in general in Hopkins County does not go down. Right. And there is actually a piece of this grant that is intended to be an add-on that addresses that question, because one of the things the state wants to do is make it so that farmland stays in farming, and to do that, it needs to be affordable, right?
Right.
And so, there's an additional piece of this grant that's on option for landowners, where they get additional compensation, usually about 20% of the assessed value, so it picks it up quite a bit. And in exchange, they agree to only sell it to an active farmer or to family members, and only sell it at agricultural value. So it really cuts the remaining value a lot, and it's only for people who really wanna do that. But it is an option to receive those additional funds.
Actually, it sounds like a good deal for farmers.
It can be a very good deal if it's what they're looking for. So
Yeah.
I've definitely talked to farmers who have said it's the best thing that they've ever done. It's allowed them to get their retirement funding out, to sell their land at a very affordable rate to the next generation. It's
Right.
really helped. Or they've been able to take that money and invest it back into the farm, and that's been a real game changer. Talk to other farmers who have felt like, gosh, I sold my development rights, and that's the only time I can sell my development rights. And then I have if the development value goes up, there's no you can't sell it twice, right? So it's really in perpetuity. And so it really is just for people who have that desire to protect the farmland. And I think a lot of times people will feel like farmers feel a little bit like their land is their backup plan financially, and this reduces that a little bit.
Well, they do get a value out of the farmland, plus they can still use it,
Yes,
and then their family can use it, so.
yes,
It's actually a good deal.
it's a great deal if that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
It
Well-
makes it so that they can no longer divide off lots, which is sometimes how people cover their immediate expense needs.
Yeah, but they get the same thing from.
Right, yeah,
And they get, all of it at once,
yes,
yeah.
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 And yes, protecting farmland is important.
right. Yes, I tend to think so.
Good idea. But
All right, so
Yeah. It's better than nothing. I mean, otherwise, it's just you're losing battle. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So next Tuesday, we have a webinar for landowners where I'll be speaking just generally about the project or the process. We have the executive director from New York Ag Land Trust speaking, and 2 property owners who have worked with the New York Ag Land Trust talking about their experience. So if people are interested, you can register on Cooperative Extension's website. And if you know people that are interested, please send them my way and I can answer any questions.
Interesting. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank
It
you.
is.
Yeah.
Very interesting, yeah. Actually,
don't
we
know,
should, we
it-
should make
it-
sure it gets in the comp.
And I can, yeah, you should. The,
Well, just to
and I can
mention,
see why it's such a hard sell in this area.
Yeah.
You know, because the way land values are going,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, it is, but at the same time, I think, for especially for families where they're shifting from one generation to the next, it really helps with that an awful lot because of the way land values are going, right? Because right now, it's really, really hard to buy land at the going rate and make a living at that, right?
yeah.
But the people who are retiring out of farming, they need that money,
Mhm.
right? That's their retirement.
Mhm.
And so I see this especially as being that bridge that connects those 2 needs.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, thank you
Alright,
very
yeah,
much.
Thank you.
Sure. We don't have anybody waiting on us but us. So, yes, we'll take a break.
What, we're taking a break?
Yeah, we're gonna take a break.
Oh, there's more?
Well,
Yes.
we've got the
I think,
email chain of stuff.
Actually, maybe Crystal can stay. Our next topic is the ag district, for Ulysses, having that one piece of property that we want.
Oh,
to
I
have
would be
green.
happy to stay and be part of that conversation.
Would
Absolutely.
you really?
Oh, sure, of course.
Yeah, okay.
It's really more about protocol between us and
Oh, okay.
than it is
How-
about the actual land itself.
Do you know the piece we're talking about?
Oh, sure, yeah.
She
Okay,
was in, she spoke, I was watching the legislature
Okay,
meeting this
great.
afternoon. And saw you speaking,
Right.
explaining, trying to explain the law to us.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and helping through that, and I think. So we do have an issue between the town board and the planning board. But I think another part of it is, I don't think anybody understood how the legislature would take. That position that the town board took,
Hmm.
right?
Well,
Then when
they
they
would
just said they don't oppose, they are taking no action. It turned into at the legislature like they were okay with it being
Yeah.
done, but that isn't really what.
No, that's
Caitlin
not
said.
what it said, right.
I do have a question. So you know the piece of property. They
Yeah.
have all the rights for farming. So what was the advantage of putting it into the agricultural district?
I think with this property owner, it was philosophical. They want this land to stay as farming.
Well,
And
we
it
also
stay in
wanted
there,
it.
right,
Yeah.
and I think that, in talking to him. He has no interest in really doing anything different.
Hmm.
It's simply, here is this thing that his neighbors are part of that helps protect farmland.
And how does it
So-
protect it?
Right, so
Yeah.
right, and so I guess what I'm saying is that in his particular case, I think there is 0 impact.
Okay.
But philosophically, he liked the idea of being in that.
Do you know why we didn't want to do it?
Yes,
Yeah.
certainly.
The
Yeah,
reason
for
was
sure.
because it was in a conservation area
Right.
and we were afraid that it is a farm and if it's an agricultural district, they can build whatever they want there without coming through the planning board.
They can build whatever they want for commercial agricultural use.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, but they wouldn't have to come to us and that's right across from the lake, so
Right.
that did concern us. And that's why we didn't agree on that point.
Right,
So I have a question. In that conversation, I heard that every 8 years, people are put in and taken out.
Every
of
8
the
years.
ag district, yeah,
Yes,
every 8
yes.
years. So could we make a move to have every piece of property that's in the conservation zone withdrawn?
You definitely could, you're advisory, right, as you saw in this process, so the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. Here's what you say, and they also offer an opinion, and then it is the county legislature that ultimately makes that decision. Through the planning committee of the legislature,
Right.
right, so you could definitely make that request in 8 years that those properties be removed.
And
Yeah.
then it becomes. And this, I think, would come from the county.
Yeah, because the only reason was because it
Yeah.
was so close to the lake. It's not that we had any
Right.
argument with anybody else who wanted to go in, but because it was in the conservation, close to the lake.
Right.
We were afraid of we didn't know what kind of farm it was. We have no idea what it really was. It's a farm. Does anybody know?
Hey,
It's.
It's
looks like
hay,
it's
it's
hay
in
land.
the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, so he's locked in for 10 years
Yeah,
to just hay. Once
But
a
if it
year.
was in perpetuity, we would probably feel different. Yeah, I mean.
Right. Yeah,
But
and I
let's- he
think,
was in
I
this
think
program,
that's right,
yeah.
that's the thing is that, you know, it could change owners, it could, I mean, all those things could
And
hypothetically
you
happen.
pointed that out to the
Yeah.
legislature, but they kind of missed it, I think.
Right, I mean, I think the legislature, what I heard them saying was that, you know, it has this conservation reserve enhancement program for 10 years. In 8 years, we're gonna look at this again. So they felt comfortable kind of saying like, that felt like it wasn't in conflict with your goals as well.
As long as we pursue dealing with the whole issue. To have it moved,
Right,
which is helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah,
okay.
so that's, okay, anyway, so that's good. Thanks, Crystal, that was really
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay.
It was, yeah, it was a good explanation, so we understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than mine, yeah. So what we need to do, what our goal is now is to decide whether we as a town dealt with it appropriately. You know, between us, the planning board and the town, right, which is always a challenge.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not, just this time it was.
all right.
So.
Great.
Thank you.
thanks, Crystal.
Gordon, you still need a vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
sorry. That's. Yeah. This is, you haven't read. And this includes Rebecca's comments.
Yep.
Yeah. emails. Number 7, the town supervisor in an email stated that the town board is okay with the parcel entity. Is that a letter to legislature? To Ann?
Will be those to Ann Corman. That was the email I believe Bart had brought up in the last meeting. So
Okay.
then, when Nate and I had the discussion, he was musing on whether or not he was gonna have to opine on what the word okay meant. So.
I mean-
He sidestepped that issue.
Okay,
Well, later on, it says, it said no action. No action is different from saying okay.
And there's a couple different
Yeah.
ways you
Yeah.
can interpret the word okay. Okay could mean like they're
Right.
okay with it, or okay just means that it's.
I know.
I have
That's the
a,
thing, but the thing is, understanding what the legislature then would do with that info, and that became the real up. When I listened to the conversation, it was a real sticking point that, hey, the town board, the elected officials said, hey, no way, Jose. Or, said, no, it's okay to put it in, so.
I have a question. Did we send the town board a letter?
We did, didn't we send a formal, note
With
to
the
them?
resolution,
A resolution?
The resolution?
yeah.
It wasn't it was a motion, it wasn't a resolution.
It's a
Oh,
motion.
okay.
So it
I
was a-
think, yeah, I think from now on, we should actually do a document that goes to the town board. And then they have to send it back. So if they voted on something, they have to send it back and tell us what they came up with.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's good, but I don't, this still wouldn't have addressed it because they didn't make a vote yet.
Yeah,
But I'm saying, then they
Yeah.
would have written down on the resolution or whatever we're sending, they would
Yeah.
say, we did not take a vote on this project.
right, right.
Because we didn't know at the time that they didn't take a vote. And when I
Yeah.
looked up the minutes, it said there was no vote. So I think if we send them a letter, they should comment back saying, this is what we did during the meeting. Even if they have to put the minutes in there so we can read it.
Yeah, what we would have had to do, I think, is ask them to make an agreement or non-agreement
Yeah,
right then and there. Or something like that, but then there was new information that came out, which was that, yeah, the towns do have a say. And then you just have to negotiate with the DEC,
but still, they would have
Yeah.
sent it back to us saying, we
but they
disagree with
didn't
you.
know that.
Right,
If
but I'm-
we'd asked them to do it then.
Yeah.
Because then what happened just before the legislature meeting,
Yeah.
somebody pops up with that the owner wants to be put in because they, because you do have a way of negotiating.
So I have a question. After all this is said and done, I still don't know whether or not that piece got put into the.
It did.
Yeah.
But that's why I think our better play is like, let's ask to start working on
Remove.
having them removed.
Yeah.
And then we're consistent.
Or
across
come
the
to
two,
some
if there's
sort of
any.
agreement that says you're gonna be in this district, don't be building a 60-foot tall, 50,000 square foot.
But
Yeah.
the DEC is involved to override that.
I get that,
If somebody makes a good enough case for
I
it.
get that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's always CNN.
Linda,
It's more the 500 pigs and how we're worried about.
also on the agenda, you said about codes, that we're gonna review codes. If we review a code and decide
Yeah.
to change anything and send it to the town board, we want a response back from them. So if they
Yeah,
say, no, we don't accept this, or we want to change this wording,
Yeah,
so it can come back to us, so we
Yes,
can
I agree
discuss
with
it
that.
instead of, them just deciding on it, and then we find out 2 weeks later that
yeah.
they did it.
Yeah. I'm
So
wondering-
anything we send to the board should have a
I'm thinking,
response.
the one code change we've made that I recollect
Yeah.
is the one over the 2,000 square feet for the lakeshore.
Mhm.
cottages.
Yes, but I mean, if we
Worked
do,
pretty
if we
smoothly.
do it, then
Yeah.
it should be sent to them and they should
Yeah.
respond to that, and we should write down, you have to respond to this. So we know exactly what happened, otherwise we don't.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
then we find out about it, but we'll find out later.
yeah,
So if they did disagree with us, then we would have to come back here and say, why did you disagree? And maybe we would change what we did and send it back.
Right.
so I think what Rebecca's pushing for is this is it legal, still legal? And I don't, what happened, and I think Nate is saying that it was illegal, it was just done poorly.
Right, yeah, just done poorly, yeah.
It's not anything that's really illegal. Is
I
that
don't,
what?
see, I disagree with that.
Oh, you do?
I
Okay.
do. I'm not an attorney, never played one on TV, never will. Okay, but I disagree. I think it was something that was done illegally.
Okay,
Illegally. It was from the letter of the law, in my opinion, as a non-attorney, it was illegal.
yeah,
Was it inadvertent? Maybe so.
yeah, unintentional.
Well, the email wasn't unintentional. You don't type words into an email
Yeah,
with
yeah.
intention.
That's the thing that's,
It was in very poor judgment, the whole thing.
And when I first read the whole thing, I went, wait a minute. I don't know the law about the town board, but
Yeah.
to me, you say you make a decision like that, there better be a resolution or something
Yeah.
formal that backs that up.
Yeah, oh,
And
yeah.
then, of course, comes out there wasn't, but.
Because if that's the case, then what are we sitting here for if
Right.
they don't listen to us?
Right, I don't
right,
know that we should throw her in jail, but
Oh, no, but I'm just saying, if we recommend something as a planning board,
right,
we're doing it for a reason, we're not just making this stuff up.
right.
well, so Nate's thing is that given those facts, the town supervisor acted in accordance with the discussed course of action. Which it was discussed, not voted on. However, because no vote was taken, she only had the authority to state that okay. So when she said that they're okay, she really should have said no action. He said his feeling is it appears to break down or oversight.
Are you looking at this one?
At the very first one that Niels wrote us.
Yeah, where it says at the bottom, it appears
Yeah.
there was a breakdown,
Yeah, that one.
because the town supervisor, where was it say, wait, board had. Oh, yeah, that under the belief that the town board had authorized her action, but there was no vote, so there really wasn't an action.
Right,
They
Right.
discussed it,
And all she could say was no action.
yeah, there should have been no action,
That
yes.
they took no action. Which would say that, but. Then why wouldn't they say, so what the planning board said stands? To go along with it, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, well, that's what he said. This happens on occasion where meetings go long.
right. Well, and they can retroactively approve it, but as Michael Boggs said,
Yeah,
if they were, well, he said exactly this, but I have a feeling that Michael would vote against it.
yeah,
Now,
right,
Yeah,
not that that would change the tide, but
right,
people can
Right.
a month later go, I don't think I like that. Then what do you do?
mhm, right,
yes, because when he spoke to us, he did say, I really don't know what was going on
Yeah,
at that meeting.
yeah,
And he said, oh, I thought we voted, but no, there was no vote.
right.
right.
So we just have to be on our toes.
Yeah,
Right now.
okay, next.
Okay, so what was Rebecca? I mean. I just want to make sure we. Do what she asked us to do today. I don't know, I can't remember exactly what she was driving at. To vote again, oh, I know, she's thinking that the legislature can redo it, do a redo. But I don't think they
Can they?
can.
It's a question for legal, I don't know, but I just want to make sure that you all have Nate's response to Rebecca's email too. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. Yeah, thank you for bringing it. Yeah,
Yeah, she would like to have it redone, but I don't know if you actually can do that. I mean,
Yeah, because this goes from the county legislature to
Yeah.
the state. Yeah, I think once the deadlines have passed, I think it's a done deal. And, and Rebecca's approach to say, as a town, we've set up this conservation zone. And the purpose of it is, spell out the details, and then in the long term, to meet those goals, we would like to remove any farmlands
Mhm.
in the conservation zone that are currently in the ag district from it. You know, so that we can maintain control over what happen, we as a town can maintain control of what happens on those properties.
Right.
To try and control the amount of erosion and that sort of stuff that's gonna end up in the lake.
Right.
Because I think that's the whole
That's the
driving
motivation.
point behind it. I
Yeah, it
think
is.
we probably need to look at start stirring the pot on something like that, because we're in the process of doing this comp plan update. It'll probably take us another year or two. And maybe specifying that in there as part of the goals to, specific goals to do. We've already, they put a lot of effort into creating that conservation
Right.
zone in the lake shore. It was like a couple of years worth of discussions putting all this together. That I think following through on it. A related issue that Niels, I think, is aware of is this streams issue.
Yes.
That I kind of pushing on here, because the problem is, right now, if we use what comes up from the GIS programs, we have the potential of adding another 50+ intermittent streams to the town of Ulysses. It's going to make some lakeshore properties essentially unusable.
Mhm.
There are some, there's about 4 or 5 or 6 of them along the lakeshore that will end up with intermittent streams on both boundaries of the same property. And with typically a 75-foot setback, even on a big property like this 300-footer that we're looking at right now for Kennedy here, it rapidly becomes, there's nothing you can do. A lakeshore lot like mine that's only 100 feet wide at the lakefront, you're out of business. And I think this is something that the town board is going to have to go to the voters on
Mhm.
in public hearings. You know, when they changed the definition in 2019 of streams. The intermittent streams, the USGS intermittent streams were added to the definitions. Before that, it was only the 8 or 9 full-time streams, the perennial ones in the town, that were actually protected.
Okay.
The 2005, 2015 updates to the zoning ordinance, both of them just defined a stream as something that flowed for more than 6 months of a year. That's the perennial streams. And I've read through the town board minutes, I read through the minutes for the for the zoning update steering committee. They never even looked at or talked about streams. So I suspect there's a lot of people in this town to this day, property owners don't realize that all those drainage ditches that are typical intermittent streams have setback requirements and all that sort of stuff that they're supposed to be dealing with. If we go and add another 50 intermittent streams on top of that, I think we're going to have to put something together for the town board to be able to sell that to the public as a reason why this is good for the town to do this.
And I think that's consistent with what Michael was talking about, having something about
Right.
code.
But also,
And I think
even if,
Niels has a whole list of code issues that cause problems on a regular basis for him and Mark, that we should probably start looking at and pecking away at, one item at a time.
I mean, we did that.
even if the streams are, there has to be a setback. If it was on the lake area, if there's a setback, if they came to us, we could still approve a building. Because we are allowed to do that, even though it says you have to be 75 feet away, we can move that on the board, the planning board. could
Well,
do
you
that.
have to go to the BZA to do that.
Well, yes, but I mean, if we recommend to the BZA saying that, yes, the person wants to put a building in, but this is the setback and we want it to go back another 25 feet, it can be done.
But
Is there another?
it's going to start driving property values. If the word once gets out through the realtors or people becoming aware of this, that you're essentially locked in with all this stream issues, because there are a bunch of those. It changes the number of intermittent streams on the lakefront from the current 13 to 50. That's the magnitude. A bunch of those only go as far as 89. Others only go as far as the Black Diamond Trail. And all of them, if you really look at where the water is running, they are already down to bedrock. You know,
Oh,
they
yeah.
are on a rock basis.
Oh, yeah.
They've been there probably for
Yeah.
decades. With all the restrictions we already have in the conservation zone and the lake shore.
Hmm.
I don't think we're gaining much other than forcing the property owners to go to the BZA because there's probably no way in hell to meet the setback requirements.
Well, and the
Well,
reason
but
we go to the BZA is because we believe that it's possible to do it differently
Right,
and purposefully. And so what we need to define is what is that appropriate way to handle intermittent stream? Yeah, we're probably headed towards handling them with a sledgehammer.
yeah, because
you
if
know,
somebody,
But we
if-
can come up with a finer way of dealing with it and
if somebody comes up to us and wants to build and there's a stream on both sides and they have to put it here,
Yeah,
yes, they can go to the BZA if we, as the planning board, recommend to the BZA that they wanna put a house here. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be done that
Yeah.
way.
Well, it drives into things like a septic tank. If your septic tank fails and you gotta put a new one in,
That's the state.
oh, yeah, I know you're dealing with the state.
That has nothing to do with us. That's the state. And then if the state says no,
I mean,
Well,
property
remember
values will go down.
what's happening up
You
north.
can't drink
We
your
were at
water
that-
either.
Yeah, they're finding 5 to 7% of the septic tanks that they're inspecting are
Right.
failing.
and they're getting fined if you do not have it redone.
Yeah,
Right, so I mean, that's not here yet, but that will probably come sometime.
Are you you should be discussing that in the company.
yeah. Well, anyway, this intermittent stream issue is not only lakefront. There is a little stream out on the west side of the town out there that goes from 2 to 9 intermittent streams on the same 1.5 miles of stream. And next time, well, I won't be here next meeting and I won't be here the 2nd of July. Because the next meeting, the 18th of June, I'm moving my granddaughter to Texas. And the 2nd of July, I'll be in Athens, Greece. But beyond that,
Well, you can zoom.
There you
well,
go.
the one for the 18th, I can zoom in on. I'll be here in the
No, I mean,
US.
from Greece, you can zoom.
Greece.
And
Yeah.
then, you know, so at least we get some.
6 hours difference.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's your problem.
Yeah, my problem, right. Anyway, beyond that,
Yeah.
I've made 2 5th grade art projects already that have both the USGS streams for the whole town. I had to piece all the pieces together to do it. And I did the same thing using the GIS or the GIS data, the Stream Saver version. And that has all, it included the ponds and all that.
Yeah.
Which is typical of what I think Niels, is that what you're using when you're showing this, like the width alongside of them and that sort of stuff? And it really, you can look at the whole town and I think get a better feel for what we're talking about dealing with. And then start thinking about how we're going to address this because at this point, my reading of our zoning ordinance specifically points you to the USGS and stuff. But the BZA for some time already has been taking into account and requiring setbacks from these additional GIS streams that I don't think they have authority to do, and I don't think we as an appointed board can bring them into play either, requiring setbacks, because the town board is the only one, as I understand it, authorized to make binding decisions, and they would have to go through the process of changing the zoning stuff. That's kind of why I've been pointing this out every time something comes up. You know, I deliberately gave a bunch of info to Pete Angie in December, and I gave the same stuff to Michael Boggs the beginning of February to try and cue him up, because I was trying to find out, I've been looking for 8 months, was there ever a town board decision that essentially overrode the current zoning ordinance without changing it, you know, going through the formal process of changing it. I've gone through the 2018 when GIS was introduced all the way to the present, the town board minutes. Cannot find anything in there that they ever bothered discussing the use of GIS data. And yet we're using it all the time. It's a very handy tool to go look at all these things. But if it's bringing in all these extra streams and that kind of stuff, then we got to be able to sort apart what are we currently authorized to use and what can't we? But I think we need to, as the planning board, start working on guidance for how we wanna go and what we think we can get the town board to sell to the property owners in the town as why we wanna do this and why it's good for the town.
So I looked, I just wanna, tell, I looked at all the maps that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not one big map. They cut it into sections, so to print
Right.
it out, you can't do, but you can get a full printout. There is, what's it, Tompkins County, something or other. There's I think it's in Lansing, that they will print out a map. Niels would have to get it for us because it probably would cost a few dollars to get, but they will print out map. That's where all these come from. They
Yeah.
print them out. So we can get a full map to look at.
Well, I would happily gift the town the money to pay for it.
Yeah.
If we can get something better than me pasting together 30 or 40 pieces of
I
paper
will-
think that-
and trying to make it line up.
I will get that information on who
Yeah,
is,
and-
and because that's what they do, they print maps, that's all
Right.
they do.
Well, because there's about 3 or 4 of them that would be very useful to have.
Yeah,
The USGS version of the streams. The GIS mapping, which is the Stream Saver version.
right.
And then there's another one that I had at that thing there at the. in-
Earth Day,
Yeah, Earth Day,
right.
that shows all the current property lines and that sort of stuff. So you can really get an idea all along how many of the roads and stuff in this town, all the land has already been sucked up and divided off into properties. It may be, although that GIS data, because at Earth Day, I had a whole bunch of folks start pointing out to me, well, this is farmland, but it's showing on here as being residential.
Okay,
There are errors to that GIS stuff, and that's my problem with the GIS is trying to figure out what is the source where the data is coming from and how valid that data is.
okay.
Because if we're going to use that stuff to try and make decisions on, I think we need to be comfortable with the source of the data that we're using.
So from a logistics point of view, how do we, I think it's a noble project. And from a code, like what Mike
Right.
was recommending that we
Yeah,
take it on. I mean, we've done this before when we did change the zoning for the 2,000 square foot thing, or 3,000,
Yeah.
whatever it is now. So we can do this, it's finding time. Trouble was back when we did that, we weren't as busy as we've been.
yeah, it's getting real busy
It's
here.
really busy. So if we're going to do something like that, I'm just concerned when we find the time, because it takes some time
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah.
come to understanding.
Well,
and
I'm
thinking
willing to
about-
do a lot of the digging and that sort of stuff, because being a widower, I don't have anybody at home to supervise me to tell me what I have to do when. So I can do strange things, like spending several weeks reading through town board minutes and that kind of stuff. To figure out if there's decisions and that.
I will,
So what is the thinking about having a special meeting to do some of this kind of stuff? If you talked about things that Niels has in a,
He has a whole list of stuff I understand
list as
and
well.
may have priority things that we should be working on first. And we're definitely looking for guidance because we and you and the code officer are all in the same game here. And I think working together is the best for all of us. And if we can support you guys in straightening things out to make your day-to-day life more reasonable,
oh, no, you can't do that.
yeah, we can.
I actually have looked at some of the ordinances and I actually wrote 2 up. That really don't pertain to that. It was actually at the time. One was a noise ordinance because
Oh,
that's
right.
becoming a problem.
Right?
And the other one was a tent ordinance because at the time they wanted to put
Yeah.
a tent up and New York State has quite a lot of laws about tents.
Yeah.
So I have them and I can
Right.
bring them in and you can review them and that we
Well,
can start.
and like the noise one all came down to, okay, we can pass one, but how are we gonna enforce it?
Yeah.
Well, I know, but
Who
I
has to
I
enforce
know,
it?
but I'm just saying, I
Too,
did
and that's the
rewrite
thing
them.
we need to
I
think
did
about,
rewrite
yeah.
them for Town of
Yeah.
Ulysses.
But something like this is Yeah, it comes right into our bailiwick and the BZA.
Every time we're doing, yeah.
I think we
And-
have to get the maps first, so that we
Do
can
too, yeah.
pinpoint each one of them and say, yes, no,
I think
depending on
that's
what
the
they are.
right way to do it.
Yeah.
Right,
What
and
is
we
the
might
yes,
have to go
no
look
we're
at them. We
saying?
might have to go drive down and look at these little streams and see what they are.
Yeah,
That's all.
and start thinking about what we're trying to accomplish by having these
Right.
things.
Exactly.
I mean, what are you saying, yes or no too, that the
Right.
stream exists, it exists.
Well, it
so-
exists,
and
it shows up
yeah.
on LiDAR, but is it something that we're going to add to the zoning regulations to say that this intermittent stream, you know, they blanket added the USGS ones just by changing the definition of
Mhm.
streams.
But you
That's-
could still need, but you still need a treatment for it, because you need to respect the stream. It's
Yes.
doing something, and how do we ensure?
So maybe
protection,
we,
you know?
like on one that runs 6 months a year, we might say the setback could be a little
Right.
less.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the kind of thing. that's
Well,
needed.
and where do you transition from drainage ditch to intermittent stream so that you're not every roadside gutter and
Right.
every
Well, that's
little
what I'm
whipple in the
saying.
land?
We have to have a map to look at it and
Yeah.
And
say,
figure out and
that
drive
one-
around and look at
right,
these. and-
look at them and say, okay, this one, no, this one, yes. And that's
Yeah.
all. It's the way you have to do it.
And then, but then we have,
Yeah.
and I'm not playing devil's advocate, I'm just being realistic.
Yeah.
You look at how do you defend if you have to, how do you defend your decision? Okay,
Right.
it was already at bedrock
Yeah,
is
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
potential, right?
Yeah.
Or it's not at bedrock.
All right,
I mean, that's another potential. I'm just.
yeah, well, that's the kind of info we're looking for to think about this.
Right,
You know, I've been fussing and stewing on this for 8 months already, kind of working my way through it to try and understand what the issues are and.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that, but it keeps popping up every time we're looking at a piece of property.
I have a question for Niels, who's over there practicing the art stoicism.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
Stay out of this altogether.
No, it's okay. So how can we help you? Streams or any other way?
Let's put it this way. Do you think you can get the maps?
Yeah,
Well,
but streams or other way, I mean, is it, do you have an issue with mushrooms we need to deal with? You know, What is it we can do to help you?
I think Linda made a good point that things are busy, and once the town board finally moves forward in a direction on a consultant for the comp plan,
Uh-huh,
it's gonna get a lot more busy for me.
okay, okay,
It's really busy for our department, like Mark's, my combined department.
Mm.
I don't know, I mean, the planning board, what you guys can do best is just continue to prepare for your meetings and stuff. Like, so the BZA, sorry to call you out, Mark or Mo, but you can make a recommendation to the BZA, like to change, but the BZA to change a buffer rate, but
Right.
the BZA is gonna be very solid in their lines, saying that
Really?
they're the ones that have the authority to
Yeah.
make modifications, you know,
To the
regardless of
buffer
what.
zone?
do you think?
Yes.
To the buffer?
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not, I mean, if the planning board says, sure, let's reduce the buffer by 50 feet. And the applicant goes to the BZA is gonna say, okay, we have your comments, that's great, but it's up to our board to decide whether or not that we're gonna reduce
so
it.
should we have a conversation with the BZA?
At some-
Yes, yeah,
When it
You know,
comes to, so if we get to Michael's request to do a code amendment, I think that'd be a great thing to do and do small
Yeah,
changes,
yeah,
like, you know, small bits, and then yes, it'd be handy to have members of the planning board and the BZA on whatever committee that winds up being,
okay,
you know.
okay.
Well, they're looking for BZA members. Anybody want to join?
yeah.
I don't think we can be in both.
I don't think it would be a good idea. It may not, I don't know if it's legal or not, but I certainly would not want to be on both.
Yeah,
I think it is, I think you can do that, but I don't know if the town.
so do you think we do a committee to address particular?
There should be a
Code
committee,
issues.
just because
I think
how
so,
small
too.
we are here.
Yeah,
And normally, my experience is like, you normally have a comp plan committee / zoning committee, and
Mhm.
they generally do both at the same time, but because this is a large comp plan update, they're gonna be focused more on you know,
Comp
comp
plan
plan
for the next
issues.
year.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna
Right.
take a while for that.
To get to codes type stuff, yeah.
And there are some things that the town may not want to address as a zoning code amendment until after the comp plan is done. So.
Yeah.
that's
Well, I
also
know
something to keep
for
in
the
mind.
water committee, one of the things, I mean, I know we're gonna come out with some recommendations to add things to planning process around water, you know, and. But once again, it's being handled by committee that's working on it and will come up with details about what it should be, you know,
Well,
based on a framework and, you know, all that stuff. Too,
So let's say if we do get the maps. Okay,
Mo
We-
wants the maps.
well, yeah,
Well,
because it's the only way,
I
it's the
wanna
only way to
get
do
Like
this.
I said, I pasted mine together, my
So-
fifth grade.
it's two here.
If we have the maps,
Yeah,
we could spend, let's say, 15 minutes on a meeting, after a meeting. And discuss the maps. We don't have to do the whole thing at once. We pick one little section and we say, okay, that's the section we're gonna work on.
Yeah,
We could drive around, look at the items. On the next meeting, we can come back and say this. And,
Yeah.
you know, don't
Take it
spend
away,
hours
yeah,
on
yeah.
it, just spend as much as we can.
it's worth a try.
Yeah,
I think
and
that's a
then
good
when
thing
we
to
have
do.
all of it, all the data, then we can send it to the town board
Yeah.
and say, okay, this is what we found.
does the BZ?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's-
yeah, so is the BZA gonna use the same set of criteria that we do with respect to what's a stream, what's an?
Well, it depends.
Well,
If the
let's have
town
all
board
these
votes on
acres.
it,
The
then
town
they have to.
board, we really need the town board to make
Yeah,
a legal decision that
Right.
defines what we can use and can't use.
Right,
I think the first step should be to go to the town board and say, we believe that we need to do this. Can you request that we work on it?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
That's
works.
probably right.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah, but
and then
we have to give them the criteria, these are the options and this is.
or if we just explain the problem.
Right,
Not give them, I don't think we have to go have options yet. Just say, look, the problem is everybody's using a different set.
right,
And it's getting overcomplicated, so we need to take a look at it, because we're confused, we confuse ourselves.
Yeah, right, it is
Like
confusing. Right,
Well,
it's
you know,
confusing it.
and
Rebecca-
I think we're potentially setting the town up for a lawsuit problem. You know, because the property owners, if they get sticky about it, and the BZA has used an intermittent stream that came out of GIS data. That is not a USGS intermittent stream, and they required setbacks or
Yeah.
other cost them other things to deal with that. I don't think they have a firm footing to be standing on trying to do that, and the BZA has been doing that for at least a year already that I'm aware of.
Mhm.
I haven't gone through to figure out which decisions by decision number, but there are several in there already where they've done that.
Well,
And
actually, they did take one recommendation, that was Jacksonville, when we
The park.
recommended the setback to be. Removed because there was no way that they can use that property or put the road or the parking lot over
Yeah.
there.
for
And
the
it
park,
was, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Yeah,
But they still, in their resolution, it says that there was an intermittent stream there.
right,
And they have like the 5 different lines
Yeah,
that
yeah.
in the distance and all this kind of
Mhm.
stuff. Once that's in a property record, that is there forever.
Hmm.
And when you come up to do something else on that property, it is gonna jump up that there is an intermittent stream on this property.
Hmm.
And you have just saddled that property owner with intermittent stream issues. And intermittent stream in our zoning ordinance has requirements for how much, what you can do in that setback area for vegetation and all this stuff. That's a 365 day a year concern. That is not when I wanna do something with this property, like build something.
Hmm.
It's a year-round requirement to maintain all that stuff and what you can do with it.
Mhm.
So this is not a small potatoes item that you're saddling the property owners with. That's
Right.
why I say this has to be something the town board can legitimately convince the property owners in the town that we want to do this for these reasons, for the good of the town, the good of the lake, the rest of this stuff. And I think
Yeah.
that's the approach we need to take, because we are saddling property owners with requirements that they are going to have to deal with from now to forever. Okay, but all of this, enough
Okay.
soapbox nonsense, I think
I
it's
think
time
we're
to
gonna
go.
have trouble
So-
sticking to 15
so-
minutes.
so
Yeah.
here's the motion, I motion that Carl go to the town board and explain it to us.
Yeah, I certainly will. I've talked to Mr. Boggs already.
You second?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get Michael. I think,
Yeah.
and help
Yeah,
with that.
yeah,
And, okay,
Major liaisons.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and he's not here today, so we can't.
Yeah, but we'll keep working on it. This is a
I
long-term
thought-
project.
Rich wasn't.
So each board has two liaisons. You have your primary and your follow-up, so they both should be
Who's our secondary?
Rich. He was
He
your,
is?
he was your primary now. he's-
I didn't think he
okay.
was at all. Okay, good, okay,
All right.
good to know.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Or should I make that
All
motion?
right.
Nate offered to be here next meeting. if you want me to be here.
Oh, right.
To follow up on this stuff.
I don't know, what do you think?
I don't know that we need it. I mean, nothing's gonna change. I do think we need to formally adopt some
Okay.
communication methodology though. At least from our standpoint, like Mo said.
Well, yeah, I have no idea. It was
Yeah.
good, the way we be,
Yeah.
work on it, yeah. I mean, that's a start, but. I don't, yeah, I don't think it's necessary. What do you all think?
What?
Not for me to
Yeah.
have Nate here
Yeah,
to
Nate.
go
No,
over.
it's just an expense that I don't think we really have to
Yeah.
pay for.
Right.
Okay,
I mean, and he probably wouldn't come, it'd probably be Zoom, but still, right, you have to pay him for
right,
Yeah,
what we already know.
right, exactly. I think, okay.
yeah.
I'll run it by. I'll talk to Rebecca about it, and if there's a hue and cry, I'll send out a hue.
Okay, okay.
Let you know, if we
You-
maybe
yeah.
rethink it.
Okay. All right. Anyway,
Two,
I
okay,
make a motion
uh,
to end this meeting.
Yeah, I'm too good.
all right.
Oh, no.
Second it.
Oh,
Yes,
no.
we have the two agenda items, which I think we more or less confirmed in this conversation.
Yes, we did.
As
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay?
And, well, training was the other one.
the
Oh,
training.
geez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we killed that one in the before the meeting
Right.
started.
But I guess I was confused. Does he want this on each agenda?
Yeah,
I
on
think so.
everyone, just,
Okay.
yeah, put a time, so we have to. I'm
At
not
least think
sure
about it.
exactly what he meant by the training.
Maybe you can find out exactly what.
I'll just put it on each agenda.
Yeah.
And we'll see what.
Yeah, we'll deal with it.
Yeah. And then,
We'll-
and
we'll
then
deal with
save
it.
the code one for the last
Yeah.
and put 15 minutes. Okay, now.
Make a motion.
Oh, I
to
see.
end this meeting.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Thank you, folks.